2 weeks ago, Lewis Hamilton was 66 points behind the championship leader and basically written off. 3 laps from the end in Barcelona, that number started falling. Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes was sitting second, cruising, untouchable. Then it just stopped on track. Hamilton crossed the line first, his first win in red, and the gap collapsed from 66 points to 41 in a single afternoon. The math that looked over is suddenly breathing again. Here's exactly what changed, and what Hamilton actually needs now. Start with the moment everything tilted. Lap 62 at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Kimi Antonelli is running second, comfortable, doing what he has done all season, which is make a Formula One car look easy. Behind him, Lewis Hamilton is on fresher tyres. After a 3-stop gamble, nobody else on the lead lap was brave enough to try. The Ferrari is closing. And then it does not matter, because the Mercedes simply gives up. Antonelli coasts, the power gone, the car shutting down underneath him with 4 laps left. He pulls off the track. The points he was about to bank turn into nothing. Hamilton sweeps through. A few minutes later, he crosses the line first, and for the first time since he pulled on the red of Ferrari, he wins a Grand Prix. George Russell takes second in the other Mercedes. Lando Norris brings the McLaren home third, the first all-British podium Formula One has seen since 1968. But the podium is not the headline. The scoreboard is the headline. Because in the space of one afternoon, a championship that looked settled stopped being settled. Here is the number that matters. Before Barcelona, Antonelli led Hamilton by 66 points. That is most of a clear race and a half in hand, the kind of cushion that lets a leader manage a season instead of fighting for it. Hamilton wins, Antonelli scores 0, and the swing is 25 points in a single race. 66 becomes 41. Hamilton is now second in the World Championship, ahead of his old teammate Russell, in the highest title position he has held since 2021. 41 points is still a mountain, and nobody is pretending otherwise, but 41 is a number you can chase. 66 was a number you quietly accept and stop fighting. The distance between those two figures is the distance between a season that is already decided and a season that just cracked open. And the reason it cracked is the part that should worry Mercedes more than any single result. To understand why this matters, rewind to the end of March. Suzuka, the Japanese Grand Prix. Kimi Antonelli, 19 years old, takes over the lead of the championship and becomes the youngest driver ever to top the standings in the history of the sport. Nobody in the paddock is surprised by the talent. They are surprised by the speed of it. By the time the circus reaches Monaco, he has won 5 Grands Prix in a row. 5. He is the youngest driver to ever string 3 wins together, never mind 5, and he has done it in his rookie campaign at the front of the grid. Put that record in context, because it cuts both ways now. Antonelli has led this championship at 19 years old, deeper into a season than any teenager in the history of the sport. For 12 straight rounds, the pressure of chasing has sat on everyone else, on Hamilton, on Ferrari, on a grid full of champions trying to catch a kid. Barcelona is the first time all year that pressure turns around and points back at him. A 19-year-old leading a title fight is a great story. A 19-year-old defending a shrinking lead against a 7-time world champion is a completely different test, and he has never once faced it. Mercedes, across the first 7 rounds of 2026, wins 6 of them. Russell takes the season opener in Australia. Antonelli takes the next 5, one after another. China, Japan, Miami, Canada, Monaco. The new rules that arrived this year were supposed to scramble the order, and they did, just not in the direction the grid expected. They handed Mercedes the cleanest car and the strongest engine in Formula One, and Mercedes ran with it. Going into Barcelona, the only real argument left in the championship was who finishes second behind the silver cars. And for most of the season, that argument did not include Lewis Hamilton in the way you would expect. His first year at Ferrari, back in 2025, ended without a single podium. Sit with that for a second. One of the greatest drivers the sport has ever produced, 7 world titles, and a debut season in red that never once reached the rostrum. The move that was supposed to be a fairy tale started as a grind, full of frustration, radio messages that sounded like a man fighting his own car, and a constant question hanging over the whole thing. Had he left it too late? Then 2026 turns, slowly at first. Australia the opener, Hamilton brings it home 4th. Round 2 in China, he climbs onto the podium in 3rd. His first as a Ferrari driver, and he backs it up by scoring in the sprint that weekend too. Japan is quieter, a 6th. Miami is another 6th on Sunday, with more points banked in the sprint. It is not spectacular, but it is steady, and steady is doing something to the standings that almost nobody notices while they watch the teenager out front. because the results keep building. Canada, Hamilton finishes second. Monaco, second again, and on the streets where overtaking barely exists, he climbs clear of Russell to sit alone in second place in the championship. By the time the cars line up in Barcelona, he has stood on the podium in 4 of the first 7 races of the year. He is not winning. But he is always there, race after race, collecting the kind of points that do not make headlines and quietly stack into a position. And being always there is exactly how you get yourself ready to pounce the moment the leader slips. When the win finally comes, it carries weight far beyond the 25 points. It is Hamilton's 106th career victory and his first in 686 days. 686. 40 races had passed since the last time he stood on the top step, all the way back at the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix in a Mercedes. At 41 years old, he becomes the oldest driver to win a Formula One race since Jack Brabham did it in 1970. More than half a century of this sport, and nobody his age had managed what he just managed. Rewind the race itself a few laps, because this is important. In that final stint, the Ferrari is not just hanging on, it is the quickest car on the circuit. Hamilton's fresher tyres are working, he is closing on Antonelli at a serious rate, and the gap that looked safe for the Mercedes is shrinking on every lap. The pass might well have come anyway. We will never know, because the failed engine made the decision for everyone, but the picture matters. A driver handed a win looks lucky. A driver already hunting down the leader when that leader breaks looks like a problem that is not going away. He does not do it on luck alone either. The 3-stop strategy was a call most teams flinched at, because stopping 3 times means more time lost in the pit lane and more track position handed away. Ferrari, committed to it anyway, kept Hamilton on tyres that could actually attack rather than nurse, and when a virtual safety car fell at exactly the right moment, the gamble paid in full. Antonelli's failure opened the door. Hamilton's strategy is what put him close enough to walk through it. Here is the part that turns a good result into a turning point, though. Look at who is left in this title fight and who is not. Behind Hamilton in second, the standings fall away fast. Charles Leclerc, in the other Ferrari, sits on 75 points. Lando Norris, 73. Oscar Piastri, 68. Max Verstappen, the 4-time champion, is all the way down on 55, in a Red Bull that simply has not turned up this season. Verstappen himself has admitted his team is, in his words, still only the 4th fastest on the grid, and that nothing about that changes on the upcoming tracks unless they find real performance. When a reigning 4-time world champion is reduced to a footnote in a title race, you know just how far the order has been turned upside down this year. So strip it back. McLaren have faded from where they were. Red Bull are nowhere near the front. And it is Hamilton, not Leclerc, carrying Ferrari's title hopes now. The other Ferrari has the speed but keeps throwing weekends away, and on 75 points, Leclerc is already 40 behind his own teammate. Despite a quick car, he keeps losing ground to mistakes and bad luck. The 2026 championship is not a 6-car scrap anymore. It has narrowed to Mercedes. And the one man chasing them who has just proven he can win. That man is Hamilton. The story everyone expected to be about the next generation has quietly become a story about whether the old master can pull off the most unlikely title of his entire career. By the Monday after Barcelona, the whole mood of the championship has shifted, and here is what the swing does not change. Mercedes are still the fastest team in Formula One. The constructors' standings say it cold. Mercedes sit on 262 points. Ferrari are second on 190. That is a 72-point gap between the two teams, and it exists for a reason. Behind them, it is the same picture as the drivers' table. McLaren, a distant third on 141, Red Bull fourth on 89, Alpine fifth on 57. On raw pace, on a normal afternoon where both cars finish, the silver car is still the one to beat, and everyone behind Ferrari is racing for the scraps. The thing holding Ferrari back is not the chassis. By Barcelona, the Ferrari is quick through the corners, kind to its tyres, and capable of running with anyone on the right kind of track. What it lacks is grunt. The 2026 power units reset the engine fight completely, and Ferrari came out of that reset behind. Estimates up and down the paddock put the deficit somewhere around 25 to 30 horsepower against the Mercedes engine. On a long straight, that figure is the difference between defending a position and watching it disappear in your mirrors before the braking zone. Hamilton has been blunt about it. After Canada, he said that if you take away the power deficit, Ferrari are right in the fight with these guys, and that on engine alone, they are massively down. That is the quiet truth underneath the Barcelona celebration. Ferrari did not suddenly become faster than Mercedes. They took their chance, brilliantly, on the one afternoon Mercedes broke. Hamilton himself has tried to keep a lid on it, saying that nothing is impossible, but that catching this Mercedes is not going to be straightforward. He knows exactly how big the climb is. If you want to follow how this race actually unfolds over the next 15 rounds, with the numbers broken down weekend by weekend and no hype attached, subscribe and stick around. There is a lot of season left, and it is about to get complicated. So is Barcelona a one-off, or the first sign of something Mercedes cannot control? And the evidence points somewhere uncomfortable for the leader, because Antonelli's stricken car in Barcelona was not the first Mercedes to stop this season. It was the second in 3 races. Go back to Canada. George Russell is leading, in control, looking like the winner, and his Mercedes lets go with a power unit failure. He scores nothing from the front of the race. 3 weekends later, it is Antonelli's turn, running second on the road, 4 laps from home. The same brutal story told with a different driver in the cockpit. 2 retirements from podium positions in 3 races, both from a team that has otherwise been close to flawless all year. If that is a pattern rather than a run of rotten luck, then Mercedes have a problem no rival can hand them. Their own reliability quietly turning against the very people who built the fastest car on the grid. And notice who that problem keeps catching. Russell, who lost Canada from the lead, is third in the championship on 106 points, only 9 behind Hamilton. Antonelli, who lost Barcelona from second, still leads, but his cushion is now soft. The same failures that are denting the front of the Mercedes garage are the failures handing Hamilton the openings he needs. Every time a silver car stops, the 7-time champion is the one standing in the right place to collect what falls. Ferrari are about to push from the other direction too. There is a mechanism written into the 2026 rules that lets a trailing engine manufacturer claw back lost performance over the season, and Ferrari qualify for it. The first upgrade package could arrive as early as the Austrian Grand Prix at the end of June, and the expectation inside the team is that it closes a meaningful chunk of that power gap. A second step is penciled in for after the summer break, potentially at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. If those upgrades land the way Ferrari hope, the one weakness keeping them off the top step on pure speed starts shrinking at exactly the moment Hamilton has momentum. Think about what that upgrade actually does to the picture. If Ferrari claw back even half of that 25 to 30 horsepower by Austria, the tracks where they have been losing time, the ones with long full throttle runs, stop being weekends to survive and start being weekends to win. Barcelona already proved the Ferrari can beat the Mercedes when the strategy and the luck line up. Give that same car more straight-line speed, and it stops needing the luck. Right now, Hamilton needs almost everything to fall his way to win a race. The whole point of the upgrades is to shrink how much has to fall his way. Now, put it all together, because this is the new math. 15 Grand Prix and 3 sprint races remain on the 2026 calendar. The sprints matter here because they are extra points up for grabs, and they fall at Silverstone, at Zandvoort, and at Singapore. Each of those sprints is worth 8 points to the winner, another 24 in play on top of the Grand Prix hauls, and they land at circuits where one strong Saturday can quietly rebuild a championship. Add it all up, and there are 399 points still on the table. Hamilton trails by 41. In plain terms, that gap is worth less than 2 non-finishes from Antonelli, or a steady run of Hamilton beating him by a handful of points a weekend across the back half of the year. It is not a fantasy, it is arithmetic. Spread 41 points across 15 Grand Prix, and it comes out at under 3 points a race. That is Hamilton turning a second place into a win just 3 or 4 times between now and the end of the year, or simply being there to clean up every time a Mercedes falters. Put like that, the gap stops sounding like a wall and starts sounding like a target. The shape of the run-in helps him too, in a small way. This is already a compressed season. The 2026 calendar was meant to run to 24 races, but the rounds in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia dropped off the schedule, leaving 22. Fewer races usually favors the leader, because there are fewer chances for things to go wrong. But it also means every remaining weekend carries more weight, and one more Mercedes failure now costs Antonelli a bigger slice of what little is left. In a 24-race year, he could absorb a bad day. In what remains of this one, every retirement is a crater. What Hamilton needs is not a miracle. He needs Antonelli to keep leaking points, and he needs the Ferrari engine to stop being the thing that costs him straight-line speed. Both of those are now live possibilities instead of wishful thinking. The leader's car has failed twice. The challenger's car is about to get stronger. That is the exact combination that turns a 41-point gap into a genuine fight rather than a procession to the title. There is one more plate the leader has to keep spinning, and it sits in his own garage. Russell is right there, 9 points off Hamilton and hungry for a win after losing Canada from the front. Antonelli does not just have to beat the Ferrari, he has to hold off his own teammate at the same time, and Mercedes have to keep both their cars healthy while they do it. That is a lot to manage across 15 rounds, against a driver with 7 titles worth of knowing exactly when to strike. And do not underrate the thing you cannot put on a spreadsheet: momentum. 2 weeks ago, the questions around Hamilton were about whether the Ferrari move had been a mistake, whether the speed had finally drained away, whether 41 was simply too old to fight at the front. One win silences all of it. He walks into the next race not as a man hoping to hang on, but as the driver who just took the fight to the championship leader and won it. That shift, from surviving to attacking, is worth more than any single haul of points, and it has arrived at the perfect moment in the calendar. Even the people running Mercedes can see it coming. After Barcelona, Toto Wolff admitted there is now a third party getting involved in the championship fight, in both the constructors and the drivers' standings. That is the language of a team principal who has dominated all season, openly naming a threat he did not fully price in just 2 weeks earlier. When the boss of the strongest team on the grid starts talking about a third party in the fight is real. His former team, the people who know exactly what he is capable of, are now openly counting him in. And think about what is actually on the line for the man doing the chasing. Hamilton left Mercedes after more than a decade, walked away from the most successful partnership the sport has ever seen, and bet the final act of his career on dragging Ferrari back to the top. The first 18 months delivered almost nothing. Barcelona is the first hard evidence that the bet might actually pay. An 8th World Championship at 41 years old, in red, against a driver less than half his age, would stand as the most improbable title of everything he has ever won. 2 weeks ago, that sentence sounded absurd. It sounds a little less absurd today. The next checkpoint comes fast. The Austrian Grand Prix falls on the 28th of June, and it is where Ferrari's first engine upgrade is expected to appear. If Antonelli answers Barcelona with a clean, dominant win, the gap stretches back out and the story goes quiet again. If Hamilton beats him a second time, now with more power under the floor, 41 points start sliding towards something that looks genuinely close with a long summer still to run. One race reopened this championship. The next one tells us whether it stays open. There is something almost cinematic about who it has come down to. The youngest championship leader the sport has ever produced against the most decorated driver in its history. A 19-year-old protecting a lead from a 41-year-old with 7 titles to his name. The age gap alone tells you how strange and how good this fight has suddenly become. For now, the facts sit where they are. Antonelli leads on 156 points. Hamilton is second on 115, closer to the front of a title fight than he has been in 5 years, in a car that is finally winning after a weekend almost nobody saw coming. The teenager still holds the lead. The 7-time champion is the one hunting him down. And for the first time all season, the hunt is real. If you want the next chapter the moment it lands, the Austrian Grand Prix breakdown drops here. Subscribe so you do not miss the race that decides whether Barcelona was a fluke or the start of the comeback.